getting on? Welcome to Serverless Craic. How are you all feeling?
Not
Happy,
too bad.
happy?
All good. Just another manic Monday, right?
Just
Absolutely.
another manic Monday. There we go. So we figured, we were going through the book, but there's been a couple of interesting events this past week, so I thought maybe we'd take a quick pause and have a chat about them.
Yeah.
Um, let's start with AWS ComSum, which is the Community Summit in Manchester, which was great crack. It was on the 25th of September. Great fun. Um, Super event now. I must say that the community in Manchester, I think, is brilliant. It's really strong. Those are really, really good engineers.
Seemed like
I've
a
been a
big
couple
crowd as
times.
well, at it.
Yeah, I think they had about 600 people at it.
Wow. Oh,
So
that's
that was
cool.
great. And they're down in Bliss Victoria Warehouse in Manchester. It's a big warehouse, so it's very industrial and it's a very, very cool space. And so I was lucky enough to be in the keynote uh, this year, which was great. I also helped pick all the talks, which was good crack. It's about millions of talks. Myself, Sheen, and Sarah Hamilton that kind of went through the talk curation. So that was fun over the summer. But it was nice to do the keynote. Um, Big crowd, like, but there was lots of good feedback and stuff. Uh, Lots of people said they had read the book and it really impacted them and really enjoyed it. Like, so that was kind of nice. But there's probably three things that's interesting that was in the talk that I set up nicely for the day. The first one, and I was thinking about this a lot, like because we have the obviously the clarity of purpose and the environment for success. So I decided to hit on psychological safety because I've been thinking quite a lot this year with all the AI stuff. There's a lot of craziness flying around, and a lot of teams being told to do stuff. So I thought to be interesting, just hit on psychological safety, and it was a nice model. And that actually, I always feel funny with talking about that, but it really resonated with people. A lot of people were saying like, no, that's it's just just saying the engineers, it's okay to be in your team and say what you think. You have to be able to say what you think. You're an engineer. You're not paid to sit there. You're paid to share your opinion and help change things, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. And especially
Uh,
when everything's changing so quickly and new expectations are being set onto the teams, sometimes unrealistic expectations, especially with the wave of AI efficiency. You need to create a safe environment where people can challenge some of that stuff and actually, yeah,
yeah.
give
We
us
had a long
value.
talk about just the concept of challenge, I remember saying to some like in the past, some of my American colleagues maybe they didn't understand what that meant. It's like challenge, it doesn't mean I want to fight you. Just means I want to challenge the idea. It's a respectful challenge, but good engineers should be able to say, I'm not sure that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Or how I don't think that'll work. And I think everyone's been in a team where someone said, yeah, just use AI for that. And you want to
Mm.
be in a position to say, that's not going to work.
Oh,
Like we would like to use AI, but let's use it here instead of there. So it's like understanding why are you asking that as opposed to just blindly doing stuff.
mm.
Um, it's
Yeah. No,
interesting.
that's I'd be interested to see what sort of reaction or response you got, Dave, or what people were. Did anyone kind of bring it up with you afterwards? Even seeing misuses of AI, and how to deal with it, and because you don't know, I don't know about you guys, but there's loads of documents come out now, and you're trying to. I was okay. Is this how much of this has been, handcrafted versus generated versus, and does it matter? But sometimes you're seeing misuses of it and you're having the and even being able to navigate that sort of thing is actually reasonably difficult and giving feedback and um I don't know. I think it is in a really important time to have, you know, it's definitely that sort of awareness. I think if you're in a leadership position in a team or um if um if you're a senior member of that team, you should be kind of looking out for how are people coping with it, how are people leveraging it, and taking feedback on it because I don't know about you, but everyone's re-examining everything, and there's a lot of change out there at the minute. So
Not
yeah,
completely.
cracking
And I
topic.
mean, again, I mean, the guys that organize Comhouse are great. As I was chatting to a few of them before the event, I was thinking I wouldn't mind kind of saying this, but I'm not kind of sure. I might freak people out. They're like, no, no, no. You
Mm.
say what you need to say. He
Mm.
says like it's a good time to have an opinion.
Yeah.
So I just thought to myself, I thought as somebody who's, been in the industry for a long time, I'm happy to say I'm not really sure like how this is going to work, but
Mm.
I think it's important to say I don't know how this is going to work. It's interesting, but I don't know if this is going to work.
Mm.
You have to ask questions.
And I think with the wave of or emergence of AI, as you mentioned, Mike, that just
Yeah.
people just a fire hose of AI generated content. If you don't have a safe environment to nicely challenge that, then that
Mm.
will just propagate through an entire organization, and before you know it, it's being baked into critical customer facing to applications and having real impact, negative impacts. So if you don't have a good environment where you can challenge some of the stuff at source, then the AI can just create all sorts of nonsense.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough time. I think when you even think about, how do you say this without offending people? It's like
Go for it.
a lot of developers are good developers because they're lazy. They'll
Yeah.
spend 5 hours automating something that takes 5 seconds to do, but they'll get 10 years worth of benefit out of it or
Yeah.
see, a lot on the other side of the task. But it's almost like I think all of us spend a lot more time now thinking about how would you get an LLM to do this, or and instead of actually doing the work.
Yeah.
So again, there's more workload on people at this point, in this transition, and then you're doubting yourself, or and there's just a lot of cognitive burden, and there's more shift and left, I think, into squads and teams, and it's never as streamlined or as easy as people will make it out. We've all lived through several hype cycles.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a really important topic.
I think it's super important. There's also now this must mention that this was the first time the ComSum or really they put on I think it was the first time they put on a Women in Tech track, which was good. There's a couple of really good talks in that. There was a good one about the power of
Mhm.
allyship, about more equitable tech future. So some really good conversations just about, finding your voice and stuff like about empowerment and stuff, which again, that stuff extremely important that all engineers kind of, um, can understand what they're kind of dealing with at work, like, and how they actually, how they show up, like. That was
Yeah.
really important.
Diversity of viewpoints and diversity of experiences leads to better outcomes across the board.
Absolutely critical. Yeah, and I've had my fill of tech bros who think they know all the answers to everything.
Yeah.
It's not good. Not good.
Mm.
So there's also moving swiftly before I start slagging off everyone. Um, um, a couple of really nice talks as well about definitely seeing the emergence of like event-driven architecture and domain-driven design. Luke Van Dockersgood done a really nice talk on abstraction and modularity, which I thought was really nice. And then, as per usual, David Barney did his kind of like a slightly different slant on his kind of EDA talk. He's bringing in a lot of domain-driven design ideas with Event Catalog and talking about building systems.
Mm.
It's funny, I had kind of made the point that in the keynote, it's like whatever about whatever, AI or not, you need the right environment and you need the right foundations to build systems. If you've got the right environment and really solid foundations to build systems, if you use AI, it'll build on top of that. If you don't use AI, you still have a really solid system, So it's like don't think AI can, create safety and design your system for you because it'll probably get it wrong.
Yeah.
So it's good to hear those guys talking about domain-driven design and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think if you have your underlying tech stack in good shape, you have your domains, your services, your flows, and your messages well articulated and well described. AI on top of that is a superpower,
Yeah.
Mm.
but you have to do the hard yards to get your tech stack and your organization into a position where that is applicable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely a lot of the kind of the tinkering I've seen is with AI DLCs. One of the harder scenarios to operate in is the distributed system. Like the brownfield problem is actually reasonably complex, right? And so, yeah, I completely agree, Mark. If you've put time into having good schemas, good specifications, kind of having those things centralized, good descriptions, good documents around it,
Good boundaries.
good boundaries, and everything actually is reflective of what's going on at the business level. It's all the stuff we've talked about for years,
It's mad. Yeah.
And you're set up to actually have a go at maybe leveraging some sort of AI assistance and stuff.
Yeah.
Without that in place, it's yeah.
It also limits the blast radius and allows you to experiment with relative safety because you're not going to take out the entire org or the entire tech stack with one misuse of AI, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also a couple of other talks about kind of modernization as well, like Marco Moore from Flipdish did this kind of modernization talk. He did an earlier version of Serverless Days Belfast. And then this guy Ryan Cormack did an API talk with oh, completely forgot the name of it. Oh, just slipped my mind. But come back to me. But he did a really nice talk about APIs. But it's all that same stuff about designing systems and boundaries. And sometimes modernization, it's not about changing the code. It's about actually remodeling the system into something that makes sense. Smithy was the thing your man used an API, which is really nice. Nice wee SDK for doing APIs.
Very cool.
So some nice stuff, Again, with a lot of bread and butter engineering stuff, which I thought was cool. But there was a sprinkling of AI. There was a few kind of just general like agent talks, and actually a lot of people just talking about what's out there between Strands and AgentCore and Kiro and things like that. Just actually talking about them at a high level. And like I don't know how many conversations I was in, or you're sitting listening to a talk and someone beside you goes, I don't really know about all this stuff. It's like no one has got figured out. You feel like saying to everyone, like everyone's just working this out. No, the person who looks like they've completely nailed it, they're just like there's as you say, Mark, they're a page ahead of you.
100%. And that's you're not seeing a proliferation of AI in the enterprise in production yet,
No.
right? There's not too many of those talks just yet, but you can see that's coming, right? And I think with
Yeah.
the maturity of the underlying tech stacks, the maturity of the vendors' offerings around this space, I think over the next 3, 6, 9 months, there'll probably be a lot more community talks and sort of reinvent talks or whatever around how do you do this in production for real at scale in big or large organizations. I think that all stuff's starting to emerge, but it's still early.
Yeah. Definitely. Anybody who's seen LinkedIn who tells you they've got it all nailed and everything's running clockwork, we're making it up. AI wrote it for them. But I did notice like a lot of good few AWS heroes were there, and you kind of are chatting to them, off the side, and they're going like, "Yeah, I'm still just thinking about all this stuff. I haven't really made my mind up about it." So everyone's thinking with it, trying to work out, trying to just make sense of it.
Was there much chatter about just weaving AI through the SDLC or incorporating it just in how they deliver software, or was it just throughout the day?
A wee bit. I mean, more inside conversations. I wanted to bring up a nice Kiro picture. I brought up a picture. There's a nice Kiro picture, but there's the inception. I think it's plan and operation,
Yeah.
or inception, construct, and operation, the three phases. And I wanted to, being cheeky as usual, make the point there's three phases. But if you can't write the inception part, the next two don't really matter. You know what I mean? So it's really easy to say, oh, you just need a press release and a bunch of user stories, but you have to know what to write in those. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's the whole thing kicks off.
and
And
you're starting to see the emergence of more spec-driven development sort of frameworks emerging. Right? I know GitHub announced their spec kit. There's Kiro now. There's BMAD. There's a few others that are very. You can see them maturing at a rate of knots, but it's all of that thing about just specifying what you're trying to do up front. It's back to the BDD days. It's back to
that's
stuff that we've been thinking about for years and years and years.
that's what I was saying to people. I had to stop saying 15 years ago we tried this and this was the problem. That's still the problem, you know? It's like when we think like, oh, the business analyst will write the spec, and then you say this is you have to write the spec here, and they're like, that's too complicated, and you go, all right, so it is. So yeah, it's definitely coming back around again, but hopefully more mature this time. So it was a brilliant event now, I must say. I would thoroughly recommend going to AWS ComSum in Manchester. It's one of the best community events around, and great fun. Plus they had big massive FIFA screens, or I managed to play somebody and absolutely hammer them, which is great crack. No names.
What about service in general, Dave? Was there much talks on it, or?
Yeah, actually, funny enough, there was a lot of engineers there who had maybe just started looking at serverless
Mm,
and were like trying to wrap their head around it. So an awful lot of people come to me saying, I'm in our company, we're doing this, we're in AWS, but we've maybe got our serverless design wrong or architecture. A
mm,
few people maybe tried things. And then Jan Kui also gave a brilliant talk about patterns for efficient service development. So there was a lot of serverless around. And again, you still see the same thing. It's everyone's using it, but people are still trying to work out, specific architectures, approaches, and good practice. So it was a decent, mature conversation. But again, what I like to see, a lot of people, they're not just doing tech for the sake of tech. They're actually, doing real things with it, like, which is
yeah,
cool.
that's awesome. So it was like a
Yeah.
really good event.
Oh, that's a cracking event. Um, that was great, great crack. And this was the next one then, the week before was the AWS Cloud Day Dublin.
Mm,
And this is a funny event. It's an AWS event, but it's like it's been on for a few years now in Dublin. And I actually think this is it's an AWS event, but it's actually a brilliant community event because it's in the convention centre in Dublin, and there's like loads of people at it. I don't know what the attendance, like hundreds and hundreds of people, but I met so many people, like either who I worked with or used to work with, or I met one guy I worked with like 30 years ago, which is pretty, I hadn't seen him since. Um, so it's a really good event for bringing everyone in Ireland together, like, and it's a handy event. I think it's free, and it's just a 1 day job. That was on the 18th September in
Yeah,
Dublin.
I was raising and missed it. I tweaked my back, unfortunately, so I couldn't travel down. But it felt very jealous seeing all the output coming through the day.
I
mm.
got to the point where I thought I have no idea who's going. I'm just going to go, and it just was meeting everybody. That's great.
What was the general theme of conversations, Dave? Or
I mean, well, I think it being an official AWS event, like, was just loads around agents and AI and that stuff. Like, in Gen AI was everywhere. Like,
mm,
um, Fiona Simpson did the keynote, which was great. Herself and Richie Jones. So that was a usual high polished kind of keynote, and then but just a lot about just helping people scale. You can see a lot of companies locally in Ireland are just they're really ramping up their cloud presence and doing all sorts of things. So there's a complete spectrum of what people are doing, but it's good to see the maturity, whereas lots and lots of different types of companies are doing big stuff like.
And you had a
Um,
talk on agent core adoption.
yes, we did just a bit of a talk around how how we're adopting AgentCore and GP. So that was good. The AgentCore. It's well, officially it's Amazon Bedrock AgentCore, so it's a part of Bedrock, but it's really around running agents. And it was only announced in, I think it was like 16th of July or something, as it was just announced then at the New York Summit. Um, so like it was good. Like 2 months later, it was just the intro session. So the Agent Core guys just give a general overview of the service, and then myself and Ewan, who are architects from GP, just did a talk about what we've been doing. So it was good. It was good fun. Um, Good crowd as well. Like, but it's again, it's a very new topic.
mm.
I was thinking about, I think we all understand what it's like to build an application with screens as your kind of interface. We understand APIs, but then agents is a whole new ballgame. So it's good to kind of talk around that.
That does fascinate me actually. Like agentic user experience. Because a lot of the people you solve for aren't technical, or they're
Yeah,
not. There's just Joe Public, and they're not used to that sort of mode
yeah.
of interaction. You're right. So that's definitely something to take interest in.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the because it is generative mostly, right? It's how do you have consistency? How do you ensure accuracy? How do you have repeatability? How do you build your test suites for this? How do you get confidence going to production with some of these systems? All of that's still emerging, right? How do you secure it as well is a big, the OWASP LLM top 10 is only really just emerging and people are trying to understand what that is. So
Mhm.
I think all of those questions are actively being addressed
Mm.
at pace, but it's fascinating to see how fast we can sort of harden these systems to make them production
Yeah,
ready.
that side's been really interesting. Like you don't want to be too quick. Right?
No.
I think there's a definite kind of, definitely learn from the experience of others. But yeah,
It's a great space.
I got pinged by one of my coworkers about getting a shout out for the well architected SCORP stuff. I think was it one of our former colleagues did a talk on.
That's
Gerald.
right. Yeah, Gerald. Let's name and shame. Gerald Short from Liberty did a talk about I think it was operationalization of the well architected framework. Basically, did a talk about SCORP. So he gave the Serverless Edge a big shout out and gave us all a name drop. I sneaked up, stood in the back, and stared at him. Freaked him out. But no, I know Gerald well, so he did a brilliant talk. It's a hard one to talk about.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to make well architected and continuous improvement exciting.
Yeah.
But he absolutely nailed it. It's a really good delivery, and he was like, the place was absolutely rammed. It was standing room only. Loads of people standing about.
Figured.
So and then
It's a nice intro to our next chapter in the book as well that we're going to cover.
that's it. Problem prevention. So it was good to see that. Now Jared gave a brilliant talk, like, and to see how that's scaling is great. Like, so all that SCORP process is on our GitHub. So just look up the serverless.com and see all that. But no, it was a cracking event. Again, I think you're starting to find the power of community in these events, or will they really rock and roll? So I think it's having these events that are very low cost, short. It's easy to just rock in for the day, meet a bunch of people, learn some stuff.
Yeah.
It's actually hard to do it because it's you got to make the time, but it's great to go and support them.
Yeah,
It's a lot different than spending $2,000 on a ticket.
yeah, and I think in a time of massive amounts of change, learning from the community is probably an accelerant of getting ahead of where the future is. Like, so learning from multiple people is going to accelerate your understanding of where this is all heading. So I think that, like you say, like a lot of these events are free. AWS and other put them on for nothing. You just need to go and turn up. So it's a really great vehicle just to learn where things are going.
Yeah, no, they're brilliant. Well worth it. So that's the crack. That's our community highlight. Give us a follow on the serverless.com on YouTube or LinkedIn, and we'll be back next time to keep it going with the book, Problem Prevention.
Everyone, thanks.
Thanks very much. Cheers. Bye bye.